Hello again. So we're talking about economic development, but you might notice that in this short video, we're going to discuss get your critical thinking caps on really quick. We're going to discuss the connection between religious ethnicity and religious behavior and practice compared to, or the link to economic development that occurs in the world and also human development issues. So we discussed what human development issues are and how they are a measure of style of life within a nation. But a lot of economists and social scientists lately have been looking at what we call third world nations and the mentality of people in third world nations who focus a lot on their religious identity, or they have different kinds of social identities based on religious belief, religious practice, and certainly religion is one of the primary identifiers worldwide of different ethnicities as they exist around the world. Religion or religious practice is what we're talking about here. Do we focus on belief, ritual, custom, tradition? Do we look to issues of the supernatural to answer questions about life and life experiences that we are having on earth? Or do we see ourselves as empowered through education and other social and economic uplift mechanisms in order to take control of our life experiences rather than linking them to a belief that the Almighty or a supernatural entity or some sort of life force is in charge of our life experiences. Okay, so that was perhaps the longest run-on sentence in the history of YouTube. Sorry about that. But please back off from this just a second. Maybe rewind me and put me on super slow playback so that you can think about this for a second. So our social identity, our cultural identity, our way of life on the micro scale is pretty darn important to all of us, whether we are in a first, second, or third world nation. However, some economists have cited that religious behavior and the link between the strong link and pull between our daily living and lifestyle to our religious behaviors or the expectations of our religion, the belief about eternal outcomes rather than worldly outcomes. Some economists see this as a major stopping point in the effort to develop, for underdeveloped nations or developing nations to continue toward that modernization shift so that it will improve people's daily life, style of life, standard of living worldwide. So this is a very short video to prep you for what you're supposed to be looking at in an abstract that I've posted online for you. It is an abstract of a longer dissertation that a researcher did quite a lot of qualitative and quantitative research about Muslim communities in India, particularly women. So let's look at all of these different ethnic and cultural identifiers, social identity markers. So she looked at gender, she looked at religion, she looked at socioeconomic status, she looked at education level, all of these different things that make up our cultural identity. And she did a comparison of the behaviors of these women in these Muslim groups in India compared to the level of economic development that was present there, or even in the region as a result of this ethnic behavior. So it's just the abstract for this dissertation that I want you to read. If there are words that you don't understand because they are above the sophomore level in college, that's understandable. I hit those all the time and I have to ask Siri, what does this word mean or what does that word mean? But even though it's always wonderful to expand your college level vocabulary, please don't focus on the words that you don't really understand the background of. Look at the summary. That's what an abstract is. Look at the summary of the points about behavior and economic development that this researcher includes in her dissertation. because this is the link between ethnic identity and development that I discussed in that very first note when you opened up the weekly folder in Blackboard, and I said, this is what we're studying this week, and you had to read that before you went to the first article and the first couple of videos. So please text me with questions. Next week, we're going to talk about some development theories like world system theory and, what's the next one? Modernization theory. And we're going to look at a video, a documentary of a company, a corporation, remember corporations are people, in Switzerland, and how it uses the resources in some third world nations to grow wealthier and wealthier. But is this at the expense of the people who live in the third world nation? So we're going to be looking at that to finish out our cultural geography unit next week. Please text me with questions.